Joined us. This is The Press. We're reaching you live from KAFTAN's television studio here in the nation's capital, Abuja. Just in case you missed out on the headlines, we'll bring you more of that as we have our guest here on the show today. He is Wale Oloko, and he will be helping us to analyze on the stories that we read out to you earlier. It's great to have you on the show today, sir.
Good morning.
Thank you so much.
Glad to be here.
Glad to have you here. All right, viewers, our phone lines are open. You can call in to make your contributions or ask your questions. Like, we're just one phone call away. All right, so we'll start with the headline that it's like making the rounds with regards to Nigeria's political space, and I'm sure you must have been following that story. Adamawa gubernatorial elections, and then some call it show of shame, some call it comedy, and then different names. So the Vanguard newspaper says INEC bars suspended rec to announce results on Thursday. And the writer of that story says, stop this Adamawa show of shame. PDP governors tell INEC. PDP supporters protest. Give INEC 72 hours to announce results. CSOs urge Buhari to intervene. Says this drama will definitely hurt democracy. APC candidate Aisha asks court to halt Adamawa gubernatorial polls. Now, with all of this that happened, the INEC rec, the DSS officer, and all that happened last weekend, let's start with by getting your thoughts.
Well, I will not put myself on the line by calling it a show of shame or disgrace or anything. I would just say that maybe just wait and see. I think we are too quick. We are so much in a hurry to label anything that happens. And then this is not the first time. I mean, as a student of history, we've seen this before. It's just that the consequence could be something unfathomable. Maybe we can just put say, well, imagine than real. We've had a thing like this in 1964 elections in the Western region, and then what it precipitated. And then also in 1983, we had something similar in Ondo State, and then what happened after that. The concern and the fear is that we should not expect that it will generate to that extent, because what happened then, Western region was a federating unit, Ondo State was a federating unit, so also Adamawa today. I think that's just the concern. Other than that, show of shame or anything like that is as if we are begging the question. People have gone beyond having shame. We've seen a lot of shameless things, shameless ideas.
You cannot shame the shameless
so
person.
we can use so we should not bother ourselves about naming and shaming, and because it's of no use. Even when you have thieves, they said there was a difference between the corruption and stealing and so on and so forth. Even when governors were arrested and prosecuted abroad and jailed, and when they returned to Nigeria, people celebrated them. So I don't know why we keep making noise over all this. I think the most important thing is this: do we want this democracy to survive, or do you want us to stop and then start all over? Because in we talk about 83, we talk about 1993, somebody went to court and said that they should stop the announcement of the election, and that was what led to the enemies of the Third Republic. So you can see that we've been going through this. It is not new. So I think our concern now is, should this one, do we take it seriously? Do we allow it to degenerate? I think this is a testament to what INEC can do. Luckily, I think what has happened is that the 2006 Electoral Act, in actual fact, provided that the resident electoral commissioner was the, or could be, or was actually the returning officer for governorship election. But the 2022 election, Electoral Act, Section 62, has provided for the processes by which you can now make the announcement. It has taken away that function from the resident electoral commissioner and given to an independent. And since Professor Jega, they've been using professors who are supposed to be independent. So apparently, I want to believe that the resident electoral commissioner in Adamawa State must have relied, or the people that are jubilating must have relied on the Electoral Act of 2006. And that is why we now have a situation where in other places, even the presidential election, the INEC chairman couldn't have declared the election, couldn't have declared the winner. he had to wait for the returning officer to be able to announce. So I think that's just the situation. So we need to get everything clear that, one, this is not the first time we are saying this, but the consequence, are we ready to bear? Number one. Number two, the Resident Electoral Commission, does he have the power to do that? But the irony is that we all want a woman, actually. Let us break the ceiling and let her have a woman. But must it go through this kind of rigmarole? Must it go through this kind of charade, shenanigans, and so on and so forth? I think that's just the question. And the woman has gone to court to ask for judicial review, saying that she has been declared the winner of the election. And INEC has no powers to review. But unfortunately, in this election season, INEC had reviewed election in Enugu State. So before now, the court will say that, well, it is only the court that can review the election. And that was, don't forget, that a former senator at the National Coalition Center in actual fact asked INEC to review the presidential election, because the INEC now has the power to review elections. And that is why they said, well, fine, what you have done in Adamawa is illegal, null and void. You have no powers, and you have been suspended. And that is what the situation. And then let us wait. I think at the end of it, because the case is in court now, it's an ex parte motion. The judge can decide, okay, I will hear your side, and I will decide. Or I will wait for PDP or INEC to hear their own side of the story before you. So I think that's just the situation. For now, I feel that we should just continue to enjoy ourselves, and then should not take it seriously. There are more important issues. There's a cash crunch, there's poverty, there's unemployment, the power supply, inadequate power supply, so there are a lot of issues beyond that. It's just that we have so much concern about democracy. We feel that democracy will deliver the goodies, make better life. But you ask yourself, in the last 24 years, and then what has happened?
Okay. Sorry to cut you short, Annabel. You just said we all hope that the democracy will deliver, and you also said in the beginning that the democracy that we are looking for, are we ready for it? So when we are hoping that democracy will deliver a lot of things, and the election so far has been going this way, do you really think that we will get this democracy that everybody is looking forward to anytime soon?
Probably the kind of democracy that our past leaders or heroes fought to get.
No, I think the bottom line is that every society will get the type of government or the type of democracy or the type of economy we deserve. If we don't deserve better than this, then we should not complain. This is Nigeria. This is so-called Nigeria exceptionalism. The kind of adage that we feel that what is going on is okay for us. Otherwise, that was what I said. What happened in 64? What happened in 1983? It's unfortunate that this thing happened. And you can see that the electorates are just going all over the place. Before now, it would have been an uprising. And that was what happened. The uprising that led to the collapse of the First Republic. The uprising that led to the collapse of the Second Republic. The uprising in 1993 that led to the collapse of Third Republic. So that's why we are saying that we should be concerned. But luckily, I think maybe that is why we now say that I think we have transitioned, we have moved beyond the violence and the violent eras. That is why today is Tuesday, and then the whole thing concluded on Saturday, Sunday, and then nothing has happened. Those days, of course, we'll have seen serious issues, and that's why it's good for the students of history to know that using the past to judge the present in order to predict the future, we have to know. But again, there's another thing. PDP promised while in power that they are going to rule for 60 years. Then after 16 years, they broke down, the engine broke down, and then APC has taken over. Because they were saying that if you're not satisfied for whatever we're doing, go to court. So maybe that is the situation we are going to have now, because somebody said, oh, I've declared the election, no documents, no nothing, no, can go to court. And the woman is in court already saying that. So I think that was it. So we should not expect too much from the kind of environment we are. We cannot be better than our environment. And that's just the bottom line.
So if you say that we should not expect too much, and then you say that there are other pressing issues, cash crunch, like you talked about, and then fuel subsidy and all. But then you recall that the enthusiasm that came with this election, especially for youth, for most electorates, was with regards to the new electoral act that has been put in place, and then also with regards to some party candidates. So with all of this, now I hear someone write on social media saying that INEC has no reason or no moral standing to judge the rec, because after all, what happened in the presidential elections is almost the same thing. So like, show me your friend and I'll tell you who you are. That's what the person termed it as. So if you say we should just move on, how much would this then affect or downplay people's strength to always want to come back again? Because if you look at this Adamawa state elections, a lot of people will say that it was marred with a lot of voter apathy, because people felt that with all of that vibe and energy we came with, we didn't see that happening during the results.
Annabel, I think you are getting me wrong, or maybe I'm not communicating very well. I didn't say we should move on. What I'm saying is that we should not be honestly worried over what is happening, because the court will settle the matter. I think we are lucky that what happened in Adamawa State is a bit of concern to everybody, but it didn't happen in some states. I want to mention some states. If it happened in some states, Nigeria would have been in chaos by now. Because if you have a sitting governor and somebody is coming to say that even as at the time they said were inconclusive, the governor was still leading by almost 31,000. At the calculation and the collation of the 10 local governments done on Saturday, and we are still expecting the governor was still leading. So you will discover that I think we should give credit to the people of Adamawa State, that they have been able to take it peacefully and waiting for INEC. And that is why you say it is the responsibility of INEC now. I hope this will not determine the tenure of the INEC chairman, because there are a lot of issues that have been talked about, like you mentioned, and this has come now, and will let us wait for what will happen, and because that's the best we can do for now. And we hope that the judiciary will know that the whole country is watching, international community is also watching, and that is more reason why you mean you find a situation, if this had happened in a place where a party that has so much youth following in those days, do you think it will have been like this? So that is why we have to be very careful the way we handle things.
So if you say that
because when all the crises, all the noises and the things were happening in the southern part of the country, there was peace throughout the northern part of the country, and that is what you are still seeing. And that's why I'm saying that imagine if this had happened in another part of the country, it would have been difficult for anybody to manage this kind of crisis. Very obvious issues are at stake.
So the fact that we always return back to the courts now, someone actually said that if we're for every elections in Nigeria, does give 50% or maybe lesser at the polling unit, and then take the remaining 70% down to the court. So with all that is happening, and they recalled what happened with regards to Lawan and Machina, recall what happened with regards to Senator Godswill Akpabio. Should we really, yes, we know that the court is the last hope of the common man, but then should we really have hope in the court? And should we really send all of these cases to the court again?
But of course, we have no choice. That's the arbiter.
Don't you think that there should be a special tribunal or something?
No, what you should ask yourself is this: how come? But the courts are there. They are not asking that you should come. You are the one going to them. Who are these people going to them? That's the question you should ask yourself. See what happened on Saturday. Yesterday, somebody already in court. Who went to the court? The court didn't say, come to me. You are the one looking for something. You are the one going there. So you should now talk to the politicians. When you talk about the court in the case of Machina, in the case of somebody, these are people, the group of people that are doing it. And so it's not the court per se. But when you have issues and you have debates, constitutional requirements, then there is a provision that this is the one that will be the arbiter, assumed to be neutral, and will be able to decide for you. If you can't, the two of you cannot be quarreling, and you now come to me, I will have to decide one way or the other. But if among yourselves you decide that, okay, there's no point coming to me to come and advocate over that matter, you can resolve it.
Are we ever going to get to that point?
Then that is the question you should ask. That's why the electorate should be able to decide that this man is fond of going to the court. Then it's not the kind of person that should represent you.
All right, we lost that call. We had a caller on the line. Okay, in your earlier statement, you said something. You asked a question, and I want to throw that question back to you, hoping that you have answers. You said the question is, are we ready to face the consequences I'm going to ask you, do you think we will be able to face the consequences of all of these electoral wrongdoings that are going on? And do you think in coming elections, because I know that the result or the outcome of these elections are going to affect us, we may think that 4 years is still a long time from now, but the actions will live on in the minds of a lot of people, and it's going to affect their thoughts and their decisions towards the next election. So with the way things are going, how do you foresee all of this is going to pan out? And like you said, the question is, are we ready to face the consequences?
No, the good thing about what is happening is that we are not likely to go back to where we're coming from.
Okay.
Yeah. One, if you have a good government in place and you're able to deliver, nobody will remember all these issues we are talking about. I mean, we're talking about these issues because there are some expectations that have not been filled. So that is the whole issue. But if along the line you have the outcome of this exercise and yet you are not getting result, that is when you now have consequences. And going forward, let us hope that the courts, like Annabel mentioned, will be able to decide. And people, of course, these are people, they live in the country, they live among people, they know what is happening. So they should be able to decide, apart from the fact that the requirements of the Electoral Act, the Constitution, everything is there, they will also decide one way or the other. But the most important thing to know is this, that these are Nigerians, and the politicians too, they are Nigerians. They are the ones, as far as I'm concerned, creating most of these issues. It's not the issue of whether the court will be neutral or the court will not be neutral. As far as you are able to do your part, I think the court will also be able to do it. But for now, I think we should not show much anxiety. We should just take it easy and allow the court. I think the courts will be able to decide along with what INEC will want to do.
All right, let's take this call. Hello, good morning.
Yeah, good morning, Sandra. Good morning, Annabel.
Good morning to you.
Beautiful morning to you.
Good morning to you, SBM.
Thank you very much. You are on to SMB from Lagos. Mr. Wale, let me appreciate you and let me appreciate KAFTAN TV for giving us this ample opportunity. I really appreciate. Thank you very much. Mr. Wale made mention something very important, that we deserve what we are getting. And the politicians, the electorates, they are all Nigerians. The umpire, they are all Nigerians. The court, they are all Nigerians. They are not foreigners. But believe in me, the caricature that takes place in Adamawa State, I don't think there is need at this point in time people to be calling for Mr. President to intervene. Yeah, Mr. President can intervene when it comes to party issue. I agree with that. But we said independence. That I, what's the meaning of that I? We should know. We are not saying National Electoral Commission. We said Independent National Electoral Commission. So where is the I? Where is the I? So please, we should channel our mind, our thinking towards issues that will bring development to the nation. Thank God, Orji asked Wale the issue of, Wale raised the issue of economy. Do you know how much 800 million US dollars can do to the nation when it comes to education? Do you know how much 800 million US dollars can do to health? Do you know how much 800 million US dollars can do to our water supply in this country? Do you know how much 800 million US dollars can do to the electricity supply in the nation? Ask yourself, what about the $21 investment of cement between Federal government and Nigeria? We are talking about Nigeria need to be productive, but we are trying to waste our strength and energy towards wrong direction. So please, let us focus. Last time I asked, what is the work of the National Economic Council Commission? Which is written in our constitution.
Yeah.
What is the essence of the Presidential Advisory Committee?
Okay.
Initiated by Mr. President. What happened with the economic advisor, Doni Salami? Where are we heading to? How are we using 5,000 naira palliatives with the $800 million?
All right. Thank you so much for your contributions.
We need to be productive. Thank you very much. SMB from Lagos.
Thank you so much for calling. Like, he just brought out that question from my heart immediately. All right. So now let's go ahead. Let's stay on what he talked about. $800 million US. In some part they said it's a loan. In the other part they said it's a grant given that will be given to the most vulnerable in the society. 10 million Nigerians will get 5,000 naira each, and that's coming from. And yesterday we saw the paper saying that the federal government they're waiting for President Muhammad Buhari's approval of that loan. Let's start by getting your thoughts. Can we afford it as a country? With all you talked about the cash crunch, you talked about fuel subsidy and all.
No. What do you mean by can we afford it? There's nothing that a country as blessed as Nigeria cannot afford. One. Number two, whether it is grant or loan, there's nothing that is free. What World Bank is given, 800 million, is that we'll start repaying the loan in 2027 at less than 1%, service charge less than 1%, and the loan and the interest on the loan about 1%. So at the end of the day, we are going to be paying about 1.75% of that loan, and it will start paying 2027. So nobody's giving you free money. So and then we are going to be paying twice every year, 15th of January and 15th of July of every year for the period we're going to be paid. So we have almost 4 years to say, well, this is what we're going to do. But don't forget, you have a de facto and de jure government in place. So if the government decides that this is what we want to do with a loan or grant, and World Bank has looked at it and said, well, we are satisfied that the vulnerable and the less than 123 million people that are below poverty line will need it. So what can we do?
But I was
what we are saying is that what I'm saying is this, that that disbursement will not start. We will have to now send the request to the National Assembly for appropriation, and that's just it.
Sorry, I have to cut you there.
That is done, that is it.
Yesterday, we actually saw a paper saying that a particular headline saying that the IMF and World Bank, they're staying away from making any comments with regards to that fuel subsidy coming from Nigeria. But
that is not fuel subsidy. They have already asked for money. Their government is saying that we are going to remove fuel subsidy, and one of those ways by which we can cushion the effect of the removal is to provide the I don't want to use the word the low cadre people or the low income people. These are kind of vulnerable. But I have the vulnerable. I don't even want to use that word vulnerable. Everybody is vulnerable. I'm also vulnerable one way or the other. So that's going to be paid certain amount over a period of time. So the issue is not whether IMF or no. Once the money is there, it's for us to draw the money, but we cannot draw it all till the National Assembly now approves in terms of appropriation, and they can only do that when the federal government sends that kind of request to the National Assembly. So this is not the issue. Don't forget again that IMF, World Bank, they have always been asking, not even only that, even the ADB, they have always been asking that subsidy should be removed. And how do you go about it? The question is all the stakeholders must agree one way or the other. How do we go about doing this? And they have been talking. And there's supposed to be a committee. I don't know whether the committee has finalized the work, but the so-called stakeholders, especially the workers, are saying we will support the removal of subsidy only when we have enough refining capacity. I think that's just our own argument. When you have adequate refining capacity, you should be able, in the real sense of it, to remove it so that you can know that whatever happens, you're not going to pay more than what is necessary and what you can afford.
Palliatives.
No, the palliatives is in addition to, because you can give palliatives without having the capacity to refine. And what will shock Nigerians is that they have been talking about a particular refinery in Lekki Ekpe axis. It will come on stream first quarter 2023. Nothing is being heard.
Nothing has happened.
But what I can tell you, what I can tell the world now is that refinery is not likely to come on stream this year. And that will be the one that is going to shock Nigerians. Because we have always believed that by the time you have it on stream, then the refining capacity will have gone, and then we will not be able to spare as much as maybe 700 naira. People are speculating. But it's going to shock Nigerians that it is not likely to come on stream, and that is going to be a setback. Sorry?
Are there reasons to?
Yes, there are reasons. There are reasons perhaps it may not be necessary for us to say on TV. But the bottom line is that the owners and the proprietors, they know. And that is why with all the so-called allocation, subsidy, and foreign exchange given to that company, in order for them to be able to produce, they are not likely to be able to produce. Because I think the initial thing was to start producing December last year, first quarter this year. Nobody has talked about it again. And I can assure you, I can say it, that nothing is coming up.
All right, we'll have a call on the line. Let's take this call before we continue our conversation. Good morning, and thank you so much for joining us on the press. Oh, we lost that call. Okay, still issues of economy. This headline from the Daily Sun this morning says, Nigeria spends 96.3% of 2022 revenue on debt servicing, and that's according to World Bank. Let me take this call before we continue that. Hello, good morning. Hello, good morning. Yes, this is the press on KAFTAN television.
Good morning.
You said?
Good morning. I'm calling from Benue State.
Good morning. Thank you so much for joining us on the program.
Please, I want to ask the analyst.
Okay.
Do we actually have an INEC? And do we have an INEC that is liable to give us a free and fair election? There is one thing I want to understand. If you look at Adamawa, I see going on. If the governors that happens to spend his or her 8 years, and after that, lobbying for maybe senator seat or something of that nature, and maybe they happens to get it, I happen to hear that they are receiving pension from the federal government or something of that nature for serving the state for 8 years. Why are we just messing up everything? It's doing now, yes. The masses, they are so patient, at least to a certain level. If you happen to hear from Dino Melaye, sometimes is it in the 7th Assembly or 8th Assembly, if I'm not mistaken, he said Nigeria is sitting on a time bomb which can explode at any time. If you look at the rate of the poverty level now, as I'm talking to you, Benue State, which is the food basket of the nation, because of all these issues of full and harassment and whatsoever, some people will not eat a square meal a day. Now, as I'm talking to you, the local rice we happen to buy at the rate of 12,000, 13,000 naira is close to 16, 17,000 naira 90.
All right.
So it comes to a point that it's only the rich that are able to eat rice now. So many things have gone wrong. These politicians, they are not able to step down because they know what they are getting. Some of them, they don't even know how much they buy the soap. They know how much their children pay as their school fees. They don't know whatsoever they acquired. Now is just to meet it.
Okay.
With the masses now, we are suffering where how much you are buying a liter. If you go to the House of Assembly, all their vehicles will go out there and spot everything for them.
All right. Thank you so much.
So many things are going wrong, and let's just be careful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Collins from Otupu, Benue State.
I think the immediate response is that INEC is supposed to be independent, and then they have shown that they are supposed to be, and they have shown that. And that is why perhaps the immediate reaction of suspending the REC. But don't forget that that the REC is not as if the national chairman of INEC, who now is the appointing authority of all the RECs. No, they are Nigerians. They are appointed by recommended by the president, and then the Senate will confirm. But the question is, how do you now, from now onward, decide the kind of people you now appoint as regs? Those ones that will uphold the laws and the Nigerian laws, not the ones that on his own. But let us see how it pans out. Let us not throw the man under the bus yet, because he has been suspended. So let him just go and answer the query first. And then the issue, the politicians will always be politicians. So that's why I say, I mean, the one was talking about a particular politician in the 7th and 8th Assembly. He was complaining of certain issues. Now he has won. He's not asking that he should go to court. But then he's still going to participate in an election to be supervised by INEC. And the same person that said INEC was not objective, was not. So you can see that is a mixture of the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Okay. Now back to the question I was going to ask. Still on the issue of Nigeria's economy. Nigeria spent 96.3% of 2022 budget or 2022 revenue on debt servicing, and that's according to World Bank. So approximately what Nigeria had after servicing debt in 2022 was just about 3.7%. This issue of debt servicing and Nigeria, is there at any point where you think it's going to get better? With taking into consideration the percentage of revenue that we use to service debt, not even repay, we are servicing debt with almost 100% of Nigeria's revenue.
No, don't forget that government is a continuum, and Nigeria will continue to exist. My generation will go, your generation will go, your children's generation will also go, Nigeria will remain. And that is why when you take a loan, when you have a loan, we are paying some loan that have been taken since 1977. So it's not something that is strange. I think what is important is to have something in place. There is Third Mainland Bridge in Lagos, serving a purpose. There's Egmi Thermal Station, serving a purpose. There are a lot of programs and projects like that that you look back and say, well, loans have been taken to build those ones, and there's no problem per se. And what we need to do is to widen the tax net and the revenue base. And of course, it's catch-22. You need to have full employment. Full employment, not necessarily everybody must be employed, but those who are looking for jobs should be able to be employed. Not 40% of the employable that are not employed, but also you are able to create employment. And you reduce the 40% unemployment rate to about 20% or even 16%. Then you now have enough people paying taxes, and that is will increase. Then number one. Number two, if you have your resources, you have crude oil. Annabel is looking at me. If you have crude oil that you are sending abroad, you are selling, you understand?
Yes.
And you are bringing back as refined. Your refineries are not working. And you are not allowing your citizens to pay the commercial rate. You are going to run into this kind of problem. Again, the most indebted country in the world, the most indebted is the United States. But because it's a functional society and they churn out entrepreneurs on daily basis, the economy is working. And there's no how you fly from Lagos to Abuja without thinking of using an aircraft built in the US or your phone built in US or anything at all. If you're talking about Yahoo, Google, iPhone, anything, notwithstanding that they are producing and then they are printing money, people continue to go. So it doesn't really matter whether you are indebted or not. What is important is that is it a functional society? And if you have electricity, just electricity in this country, you can imagine the quantum leap in the GDP and how that will affect, and that will now reduce the amount you are paying on the business. But for now, I think don't forget again that the ways and means that central bank is given to government, to federal government, is also like printing money. And then according to some people, that the federal bank actually is violating the laws because it's not supposed to be issuing that kind of thing. Because so how do we go about doing it? But if you don't provide enough resources for the states, the federating states, how do they pay their staff? And if they don't pay, then you now have problem of unemployment, you have crime, so it's multidimensional. And that is why poverty in Nigeria is multidimensional. And that is the problem we are going to continue to face. But the good thing about it is that we can overcome this in 8 years. It is possible. Yeah, it is possible.
How
with
so?
Dynamic, I'm not saying 4 years, please, with dynamic government that is purposeful. You'll be able. But unfortunately, it's not looking as if it's going to be easy. Let me just take an instance. You have Mambilla hydropower, which is supposed to give us 2,400 megawatts. Don't forget that I've been talking about it since 2007. In fact, the approval for the construction was given in 2006 before before President Obasanjo left. In 2007, when President Yar'Adua came, they cancelled the project, already awarded. So the contractor is in court claiming that the government has no right to cancel. And China is supposed to provide the fund to construct 85% of the sum. China is saying that unless you are able to sort out this issue, we are not bringing that money. The case is in arbitration. Arbitration has given ruling in favor of the contractor, the Nigerian contractor. And unless you pay, nobody is coming to do it. So the so-called, where you're supposed to have that kind of magnitude, 2,400 megawatts, you're not likely to have it. So now you have to start all over. And the national grid issue must be resolved. So if you have a government that is purposeful, you can do it. There's no reason why you should centralize every generating capacity in one location, national control center in Oshogbo, and then you start distributing it again. It doesn't make sense. It's not happening anywhere in the world.
All right.
We know where the industries are. Kano, Port Harcourt, Lagos. You give them. You can't all have electricity at the same time. So that is why you need a purposeful government, and it's possible. It's doable.
All right, we'll have a call on the line. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning to you.
This is Akin from Lagos.
Good morning, Mr. Akin. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How about you?
Very well, thank you.
Okay. Please let me make a kind of contribution to what we are discussing today.
Okay, please go ahead.
My concern is about that 800 million dollars that whether it has been taken or it's about to be taken as low. You see, just like what your analyst said, there's nothing wrong about loan taking. But my problem with Nigeria is the utilization of that loan. Okay, say for instance now, this government is telling us that they are going to, let me call it share to the most vulnerable Nigerians. Number one foul that is found there is who are the vulnerable. What is the determining factor? Determining strategy to identify who are the real vulnerable. And what is the statistic or record that they are going to give that will show that they actually give to these people? You see, this is just another means of siphoning or embezzling money as far as I'm concerned. Then looking at the issue of subsidy removal. Now, when you talk about the subsidy removal, are we supposed, yes, it's a very good concept that the incoming president is planning to do. But the another issue is that we are not looking at is that if we remove this subsidy, let's get that we are importing this oil. We are not producing it in Nigeria. And the price keeps on moving high. Okay, what if now the subsidy is removed today and the price went up the next tomorrow? So we are going to remove another subsidy, is that not? The best thing is not for us to make our refinery functional. When we make our refinery functional, at least the next thing, even if we make it functional and we want to provide subsidy, fine and good, we man our border. Because if we make the price cheaper, definitely you still find some stubborn ones that we want to be exporting it. So the issue is just that you see Nigeria, all we need is a constitutional conference. Honestly speaking, we need to discuss the way out of this country. These politicians, forget about whether they are Labour, they are PDP, they are APC, they are cycles. They are all the same. The same thing. We just be going in a merry-go-round.
All right.
God forbid. Anyway, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for your contributions.
All right.
Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning to you too. Hello.
Hello, morning.
Good morning.
Sokoto.
Hello, are you there?
All right.
All right, so just with regards to what you said, let me take a cue from what you said. I'm sure when you said, I was looking at you because I had question marks with some of the things that you talked about. First, you said you talked about widening the tax net. Now, I had a conversation with the Commissioner of Revenue Mobilization, Allocation and Fiscal Commission, and then he talked about tax, that everything should not be thrown to Nigerians to pay tax, especially because I'm looking at businesses, especially small businesses, MSMEs. Most of them are the ones they have to provide for what they provide for their electricity, they provide for a lot of things for themselves, and yet you tax them and they don't enjoy the dividend of what they are paying for. So should we be talking about taxes, or we should be looking at some state governors who are not creatively increasing their IGRs? You have states like Abia State that have international markets. You have states like Zamfara. You have states like Benue State that is the food basket of the nation. They should be looking at ways to increase their own IGRs and not taking everything back to, oh, it has to be tax and tax. So, and there are ways aside tax that we can actually raise revenue. I have two questions and I'd like you to unbundle them in one breath. That's so that we can manage our time. That's one on the side. And then secondly, you said that it is possible in 8 years. I'm looking at Daily Trust says Tinubu micromanages team more than Buhari. That's coming from Fashola. Are you actually referring or giving assent to Fashola's statement if you say it can happen in 8 years? Are you looking at this 8 years in particular?
No, well, let us look at one fact. I said you widen your revenue base and tax nets. What you do is this. You are talking about IGR. How do you get your IGR? You need to have people paying tax. And that is the fact that you have industries in some locations. And if, for example, Lagos State has been able to attract a lot of industries to Lagos, Lagos can only take income tax. The company tax is going to be taken by the federal government. Whatever it is left, that is what you can now use. And if you have houses, if you have plots of land, and you have service charge, you have land use charge, these are some of the things where you can get. But if you have a state that is rural, you cannot compare that rural state with a cosmopolitan state. Number one. Number two, we are in a federation, and let us practice what we preach. You cannot compare, you cannot give a civil servant who is on level 14 the same salary in Sokoto State and give the same salary in Lagos State. It's not possible. But if you are insisting that civil servants must earn the same, minimum wage must be the same, it's not going to work. When you are talking about governors that are lazy, that have not been able to generate IGR, how do you generate IGR when there is no unemployment? When there is no employment, you know very well that I don't know whether it's convenient for me to say this. The highest unemployment rate is in one of the southeastern states. You won't believe it. Southeastern states. So when you have that kind of situation, how do you expect that it should generate revenue? All that they're going to have, all that they're going to be getting from the federal government is to service whatever they have. And the little left they will have for infrastructure. And that is just the situation. What I say about widening the tax net is create employment opportunity. But if you have a situation of 40% employment all over the country, but you know that 40% unemployment rate all over the country, but you know it's not the same all over. We have places where it's lower than 40%, some states. And you have that is more than, as a result of, somebody mentioned, Mr. Collins mentioned, you have issues in some states that have driven some people away from the land. So they are no longer farming. So you can see that it could have risen in those states. So I agree to some extent that, okay, you talk about tax net, but there's no way where you can survive without paying. What we mean by tax is not because necessarily you as a worker, you're going to pay the tax. But imagine a situation in a developed society, United States, China, you don't have free highways. You pay. But there's no road in Nigeria today, except maybe the one you are going to the airport, and then the link road between domestic and international in Lagos. That is where you pay. Otherwise, everywhere is free in Nigeria. But some people, where is the toll gate? Where?
You have in Lekki.
There is no toll gate in Lekki.
Before now.
Before now, yes.
Before the protest.
That's what we are saying. That's before now. But there's no toll gate again, except the link road between domestic and international. And Murtala Mohammed, Namja Azikwe. So how can you have a country as big as Nigeria? You have roads, and you expect government to provide everything, even where you have capitalist society like United States, and even in China. They told their roads. The most important thing to do is this: government cannot do everything. There are things that private sector can do, and you allow them to continue. Private sector can build roads. You don't need to get loan to come and build the roads. No, private sector can provide the water services for the people. Government does not have to come in. And maybe that is why they now have a situation where Dangote, NAPC, they're now using their tax break to be able to construct some roads in Lagos and other places. Government does not need to provide everything. Government does not even need to get loan to do it, because there are people that can do it. They can do it better, manage it. So that is one angle. The second angle is
how about exportation? How about we have agricultural produce, fish, yams? How about exporting? How, instead of allowing some other countries to come here to pick our oil, to pick some of our products,
to pick our oil,
like is it Malaysia that came here and then picked our palm oil at some point? So how about allowing them come here, pick our things, and then go back there to?
You're talking about you keep talking about it's really nostalgic when you tell people that Malaysia came and you give them.
No, that's an example.
But what I'm saying is that what have they done with that? What have gone beyond that? They have been able to add value. What have you done? We are still practicing what we were doing when they came to collect the so-called private fruit in 1963. They have gone beyond that. They are now competing in the world. It's not only Malaysia, other countries. What have we done? We allow the so-called farms where they are producing to go, because we already have crude oil. So you should not blame anybody. If you can go back and even work on that crude oil alone, you should be able to get more. But you have crude oil, but you are taking it out to be able to bring in. So that is a problem. And if you continue to do that, there's no how you continue to do the same thing. You can't get result. It's not possible. But if that's what I'm saying, that if you have a dynamic government that is purposeful, they can turn around in 8 years. It's possible. You can do a road from Lagos to Abuja, Abuja to Kano in less than 8 years. It's possible. A brand new road.
So don't you think you're already contradicting what you already said, that everything should not be left with the government? But now you said that if you have a dynamic government.
Yes, the government will create an environment that will allow private sector to construct. Private sector can construct a road from Lagos to Abuja, Abuja to Kano. Brand new one, not to resurface. They can do it. And government does not need to pay. Private sectors are willing, because they know we have the population. From Lagos to Abuja every day, they can have more than 100,000 cars on that road, and they'll be able to pay toll. Once you are sure that you are safe on that road, and the road is good, they can build brand new, not to talk of resurfacing Lagos, Abuja, Lokoja, Akure, Lagos. No, a brand new one in 8 years is possible. They can do it, and you don't need to pay. People are willing to do it.
That's very true.
All right, so you've not touched on the other one.
Oh, the other one. Okay, when you talk, that's the same. That when somebody is saying, okay, micromanage, you don't forget that Fashola himself made sure that you have advantages and disadvantages. That it's like a coach who will say, well, I've trained my players, they're in the field. I'll just wait in the dog. I'll be looking at them. Whereas the other one, the players are there, the man will come out of the dog to say, no, go away, go this way. So it depends. What is important is the result. Is that not what we are looking for? And that is
so is he actually saying that he has been micromanaged in this administration? Because he's a minister in the administration, so he's been micromanaged then?
No, he has not been micromanaged. That's what he's saying. That the current president, will give you the free hand. He has delegated responsibility, so execute. That's what he's saying. That the person coming will micromanage. Will always want to be on your neck. At 12 o'clock, he will call you. How far? Have you done? So he will not wait for you to, for maybe 3 months, 6 monts, so that things are not going right before you say, no, you are not getting it right. This is how you are supposed to.
Do you think that's the reason why you have so many, like when they have constructions and then later you get excuses, they give you, we are going to do this in XYZ month, and then they come back to give you excuses, we're not able to do it because maybe the rain came, the flood came, and then washed away all the things. Could that be the reason?
It's possible. And because we have been given the so-called free hand to go and do whatever you like, you can easily say that for one reason or the other. But if you have somebody on your neck, 3 months is going, I've not seen anything. It's going to be like that. It's just like when you have, I think there's this joke on Instagram, when a lady introduced her boyfriend to the parents in December. That is like, okay, March, we are in March. I've not seen it. I've not heard anything from you people. I've not heard anything from your boyfriend, because you already have a terminal period of 1 year. Yeah. So if you now decide, okay, you want to fold your hands and wait for your daughter and the boyfriend to decide what you want to do, they may not even come back until the following December again. They'll come again to come and say, how are you, daddy? But if you want to micromanage seriously, you say, this is March. How far?
What's
What is going on?
Define the the state of your relationship.
Whatever. So you can see.
Igbo parents say my throat is scratching me.
So you can see that it all depends on how you look at it, and that is why the man is saying that you have advantages and then disadvantages. So it all depends on where you look at it. But I think sometimes what we get in Nigeria, you need to be pushful and be able to micromanage. Perhaps that is going to be something that you can give us result.
So with that statement, I think we should have some kind of hope that this government or this incoming government, we should be expecting some kind of changes.
I should think so, because this is the first time, apart from, with all due respect, I mean, may God bless his soul, apart from my Abafemi Awolowo, this is the one person that has been saying, okay, I want to be president of this country because I have the capacity, I want to do it. He's the one that is saying, I want to do it, and he has the opportunity. He has been working for it for years.
So you feel that he must have prepared himself over time?
So. Most of our presidents have always been accidental presidents, one way or the other.
What do you mean accidental president?
Okay, somebody coming out of the prison, they will say, okay, you have consensus, you have to give it to a particular place. Come on, there. Or somebody died, you now have to take over. Somebody died, you now have to ask somebody to take over. Or we are going to remove a government, and then you have to now be the most senior, or the one. But this is somebody saying he has been working from day one as a governor. Then after leaving the governorship position, okay, I think I can be the president of this country. I can do it. I can replicate what is happening in this land. So at the end, he has been working for that. That's why I'm saying that there is hope. We should not lose hope. In 8 years, it's possible. They can build a dam in 8 years. They can build good roads in 8 years. Yeah. They can do many things in 8 years if I really want to do it.
So you're hopeful?
Okay.
I think so.
All right.
All right then.
I think since we run out of time, I don't think we'll be able to handle any more topics. But with one statement, what are your thoughts on what's going on with the aviation sector? Like we all know, they began some kind of strike 2 days ago, and that's because of the salary structure. What are your thoughts quickly before we...
Simple. Let them negotiate. The government is there. You think that's the only means you have? That's the only way you can harass government? That's the only way you can bring government to discuss?
You mean by protest?
Let them go ahead and do it. It's part of their right to do it, and then they have every right to do it, and then you should just allow them. They will resolve the issue.
All right. Okay.
They always do, don't they? Thank you so much.
Truly, we always do. We always find a way to sort things out. Thank you so much for coming on the program. It's always amazing to have you. And with that, we draw the curtain today on the press coming to you live from the Abuja studios of KAFTAN Television. Till we'll come your way tomorrow. I am Sandra. Ago.
And like I always say, whatever you do, stay safe, drink water, and mind your own business. Have a very wonderful